Thank you so much for those kind words. Being a mother is a transforming experience as it changes your life. However, my life changed its meaning within the first 3 months of my son's birth. We realized that he was born with a genetic condition called trisomy 21, also known as Down syndrome. From the time onwards, the entire course of my lifetime was modified. As an educator, I have come across a lot of special children, and consequently, like every other human, I too had my own judgments about them. Nonetheless, when the tables turned, I felt this strange yet unexplainable shift within me. Parenting a child with additional needs is like playing a sport where no one knows the rule. The goalposts keep moving, and there are more referees than players. Namaskar, everyone. I am Sameeksha Sajwan, a free and easy soul, hailing from a middle-class family who earned her professional degree in journalism and started her career as a field reporter in a local newspaper in the mountains. When my parents asked me to get married, and they got a good proposal, I left my job to tie the nuptial bond with a soldier. Later, I did my B.Ed and picked up teaching as a noble profession to suit the latest settings of my life. The wedlock blessed me with a beautiful daughter in 2003 and my sonshine in 2014. I felt quite happy and content with my life. Coming from a humble background, I did achieve all the major milestones that a small town girl could ever hope for. A loyal, proud, and overachieving husband, a beautiful, talented, and smart daughter, and my very own sunshine, Yiddhan. Although I feel like life had some roller coasters planned for me along the way, Yiddhan, the star of our eyes, started to suffer, and the diagnosis gave us all the news about his condition. That was when we started to learn more about Down syndrome, only when we were affected by it. As a family and a mother, I tried to cope up. However, life got tougher when his other medical conditions started cropping up. We learned that it is a genetic disorder that happens because of the triplication of the 21st set of chromosomes in the growing embryo. Children with Down syndrome are born with considerably long list of issues, such as developmental delays, hypotonia, thyroid-related issues, hole in the heart, sight, hearing, skin issues, sleep apnea, and so on. Although with many of these conditions, Yiddhan developed severe nephrological conditions over time, and that left us both in hospitals for weeks and weeks. The brightest of lights appear in the darkest of times. In this case, a small child smiling through all the pain made me experience those very shades of me, which I never experienced before. I learned that real superheroes live in the hearts of the small children fighting the big battles. By virtue, I'm a proud, confident, and independent woman. I have beautifully conquered and won my life battles. But with Yiddhan in my lap, all the past experiences were falling short to support him in a way that he needed. Growing up as a neurotypical person, and even after parenting a child previously, I was feeling incapable of providing what my child needed. All those lessons were not even close to enough when it came to advancing my life with Yiddhan. My inability to help in a way I wanted, his inability to receive that help in a way that was required, and the limited capacity of the entire social fabric to accommodate us only made things tougher and added to the existing insecurities in my life. The pain a parent experiences when their child suffers is incomparable to anything in this world, especially in the case of an infant who is pure, innocent, and adorable in all the ways possible. How would you deal with a situation when a little munchkin vividly in insurmountable pain, gazes at you with the brightest pair of eyes and a smile that can melt a million hearts. This was what I courageously endured all day, every day with my son. Yiddhan brought me to the present moment in my entirety. I practically learned through his life and struggles how the human spirits can endure it all, and that there is no point in repenting the past or crying over the future. I tried seeking emotional support from my family, but found them to be even more vulnerable than I was. At times, I had to actually turn down their calls as it used to become all too overwhelming. My only source of strength was Yiddhan. He taught me to try and extend my support to everyone in the environment to the best extent possible. Thus, I wore his smile as my armor and never let my family endure the effects of his physical suffering. The learning to attune ourselves as a family with these new requirements came in all forms: emotional outbreaks, family conflicts over petty issues, getting overambitious, consuming each other spiritually, and whatnot. When my son encountered his first hospitalization even before his first birthday, something happened that strongly pushed us to expand our thinking and working capacities according to the need of the hour. Yiddhan got a cough and cold that became bad and too worse and subsequently turned into a severe bilateral pneumonia. He was hospitalized, and the next morning, my husband and daughter visited us. On inquiring about the food and water to be fed to him, we looked at each other and exchanged a gut-wrenching feeling of pain, as all of us were so emotionally exhausted that none of us got the chance to even bother about getting the food or water. That was an extremely strong wake-up call. It took me some time to build myself up in my heart, braver, stronger, and wiser. I determined to become stronger than before and dedicated 10 times the efforts required to build my family together, including my daughter and my husband, who were having their own respective journeys during this time. I took complete responsibility for all of my son's needs without expecting anything from anyone. He needed a lot of support in terms of medicines, therapies, medical care, developmental reviews, and frequent hospitalization. The shock of the initial phase of denial, how or why it happened to us, was short-lived, but the experience with societal conditioning was definitely the worst part of it all. That's when I promised myself to never be degraded to the victim mentality ever again, no matter what. Thus, I stopped the pity party, pulled myself together, and took total ownership of everything in my life. A lot changed after that moment, externally and internally. Over time, we got in touch with many families with similar needs. Later, when Yiddhan came under the care of 8 different specialists for his medical and physiological needs, I remember feeding him medicines more than the baby food itself. More than the massage oils, I applied ointment on his limbs to repair the nerve injuries he received during long intravenous cannulation. Nothing can be more heart-wrenching for a mother than to see her infant bearing so much. But even then, the way he always smiled back made me believe that this path beneath our feet is woven with endless, boundless grace that reminds us that our faithful steps matter even if we are traveling at a slower pace. The constant emotional support and guidance from the families in the DS community gave us yet another reason to keep the faith. Together, we struggled and triumphed against every infection, hospitalization, and surgery. By the time Yiddhan turned 2 years and 7 months old, 6 out of 8 specialists who were rendering care for his medical aspects ensured us for his well-being. At last, the universe moved for us without missing a single beat. Our happiness was meant to be. Thus, we prepared and placed ourselves to support his needs better, which was easier than said than done. Nonetheless, we persisted. He was the center of our world, and all of a sudden in August 2017, we lost him. He was 2 years and 8 months old, sleeping in my arms, and that was when he chose to leave us all alone. I had given multiple resignations earlier and remained jobless for years, but the real feeling of joblessness was only felt when I had to spend an entire day without my son, knowing that the rest of my life would be the same. Ever since then, the sky, earth, water, and my breath looked different. It seemed as if he was pouring his smile at us from far above. All this while I realized how life was not happening to me, rather it was responding to me. After revisiting the past, every now and then I find myself so very grateful for the practice of Nishn's Buddhism, which kept me spiritually sane in those tough times. Only people who are capable of loving strongly can suffer great sorrow, but the same necessity of loving serves to counteract the grief and heal them. We cannot simply sit and stare at our wounds forever. You are allowed to grieve what was, while also having hope that just because the beautiful parts of the past cannot be repeated or replaced, that does not mean you cannot have a beautiful future that will be meaningful and special in its own way. You might not see how anything could ever compare to that night, that conversation, that relationship, or that season of life. But you can still find a connection here in the present moment. Yes, the present moment will look different from the past, but perhaps that can be a beautiful thing. We do not move on from grief, we move forward with it. Yiddhan's passing away put me on a different roller coaster. I like to call it the social roller coaster. I grasped how bitter society can be at such moments, and at the same time, how physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually strong I can be. A so-called friend consoled us by saying, "Oh, he had so many issues. Then it happened for good that he's no more." And another friend, who was a doctor herself, responded, "He had many complications and a diagnosis. That's why it seems it doesn't bother you that he is gone." Once after a routine visit to my hospitalized son, the attending pediatrician was heard suggesting, "With uncountable medical advancements and the birth of such children can easily be controlled." These are just some of the many instances that showcase how crippled our neurotypical societal mindset can be. And it was more than enough to push me towards contributing to the cause of Down syndrome. As I healed my own parts of being, over time it became my own need and greed to remain with the cause and be there for those who needed. There were countless fears. Fear of being judged, fear of losing my sense of priorities, fear of the weak mom within taking over my being, fear of losing the family on this emotional jolt. But life isn't easy for any of us, but for that, we must have perseverance and above all, confidence in ourselves. We must believe we are gifted for something and that this thing, at whatever cost, must be attained. As we close one chapter, the pen is gradually inking up, preparing itself to write the next. My husband had an appointment which was demanding as usual, and my daughter continued her studies, leaving me jobless, I just mentioned. My family and friends all grieved because we lost a child. Yiddhan left with a trough deep enough to drown us. In an attempt to eradicate the gloominess of my family and myself, I consulted a gynecologist to plan for another baby. At the age of 40, it was a very difficult choice to make, especially from the place I was coming from. I chose to be courageous, and because of various reasons, we opted for an IVF procedure. We knew it was difficult, but our mettle was tested when we Really tried it. After 3.5 years of taxing medical regimen and 4 failed attempts, we got blessed with our second daughter, Yahavi. So I chose to continue smiling and contributing to the cause. I was so fortunate that the same set of parents in NGO with whom I got in touch never doubted my intention. This way, I plunged into the activities of the Down Syndrome Federation of India from the very next month, which was September 2017. Ever since, it was only brought more satisfaction, a bigger sense of responsibility, and a greater purpose in life. I tried to remain in touch with those families as a reliable friend, which resulted in nothing but gratitude for every other creation of the Almighty. And our work didn't go unnoticed. In November 2019, I got the privilege to be part of the team that presented their concerns related to the diagnosis of Down syndrome to the Secretary of the Department for Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. On 21st March 2020, which happens to be the World Down Syndrome Day, I was among the very few champion self-advocates and special needs parents who got the opportunity to celebrate the significance of this day by addressing the United Nations office in Geneva via a virtual ceremony. Not just that, we have constantly strived hard to bring 2 virtual weekly sessions for the support and benefit of the parents, caregivers, and persons with special needs, and conducted quite many virtual events such as medical camps, online conferences, and award ceremonies. This year, we could participate in a mega event with the academic body of pediatricians of India at their annual conference, which was much awaited association that made our presence felt. I did not know my life would change in such drastic ways, and yet here I am, learning to take this day by day. They say that we live in the lives of those we touch. I have felt in me the living presence of many I have loved and who have loved me. I experience my son's presence with me daily, and I know that this is not limited to those we know in the flesh. For many guests of my life shared neither time or nor space with me. Through all this, I feel it will take us many more lifetimes to be able to wholly accept and include the people with special needs and their families in our lives, the same way they embrace us in theirs. It will be an absolute welcoming sign if after being with me today, when you go out there and come across a person facing such challenges and without giving it a second thought, you can muster the courage to offer that your unreserved seat and bring in a few seconds of comfort in their lives. I would want you to do that while honoring their courage to show up despite the odds created by their own biology, their own families, and the so-called neurotypical society. You know, people generally see what they look for and hear what they want to listen to, but still, a drop of ink makes a million things. Try to reach out to that one person with special needs and their families in your environment with an open mind and stay with them as a trustworthy shoulder. I'm really not sure how you will be able to contribute to their lives, but without a doubt, it will most certainly make you fall in love with yours. You won't ever take anything for granted. Memories, let them fill your mind, warm your heart, and lead you through. Though it is hard, extremely hard, to turn the page when you know someone so precious won't be there in the next chapter, still, the story must go on. Be the things you love the most about the people who are gone. In other time, in a happier place, we will meet again. Our love for you lives on. Your legacy lives on. We are fighters. Our challenges do not define us. They give us strength that other do not have. Beauty that shines through darkness because we are capable of moving mountains with our hearts. Thank you.